Hello and welcome to day 5 of my Advent of Code 2020 series. Just one thing. Yesterday, I actually ended up updating my code after I posted a video. There is an update video linked in a card at around the time that change happens in the video, if you missed that. And also, I talked about the change in the description. I saw some people were confused about that, so just go ahead and check out one of those updates, and hopefully it should clear anything up. Any other questions, feel free to reach out. But today, we are going to tackle day 5, binary boarding. So let's jump right on into the problem statement. So we board our plane to discover a new problem, and that's that we lost our boarding pass. So for our first challenge, we use our phone's camera apparently to scan all of the nearby boarding passes somehow. Very impressive to do that on the fly. But so instead of zones or groups, this place uses binary space partitioning, where we have a string of things like this, where front means F means front, B means back, L means left, and R means right. And each of these things partition the thing into half and tell us which half we're going to take. So if we have F, that means that we're going to take the first half of the possible things, numbered 0 through 127. So it's going to be giving us 0 to 63. Back is the other thing. And we keep doing that until we get down to just one seat for each seat. So that's it. And then it mentions how to do that for left and right. And then it talks about how we get a code for each of these seats. So that seat ID is simply the row multiplied by 8 because there are 8 seats in each row. And then we add in the column. So that talks about that. So our first task is to find what the highest seat ID is on any of our boarding passes in our list. So go ahead and give that a try right now, and I will be jumping into my code. So please try yours first. And here we are. So the way that I did this, first we just read in each file as its own seat. Then I wrote 2 helper functions here. The first one is, we'll do this in the order that from bottom to top. So get seat location simply takes in our row and goes ahead, replaces every F with a 0 and every B with a 1, because if you realize, if we go back to here, how this pattern works, 0 being the lower half and F being the lower half and B being the top half, that's essentially just building up a binary number, and it kind of gave that away with this name right here as well. So we can actually just translate each of these into a binary number, and that will very easily give us the thing we're looking for. So if we go ahead, replace both of those things in the string, and then convert it into an int with base 2, that's going to give us our row number. And we do the same thing for our column number, switching out F and B for L and R. And obviously, instead of taking up until the 7th, we take from the 7th onwards. And that will give us our row and column. So then what getSeatID does is it finds the seat location for the seat, and it returns the seat ID according to the formula it gave us. So then part 1, pretty simple. We just set a maximum value of 0. We loop through all of our seats. We get the seat ID for each. And then after we do that, we can go ahead and see if the seat ID is greater than our maximum value. If so, we replace the maximum value. Once we're done with all the seats, we go ahead and return our max value, and that's it. And we're ready to jump into part 2. So jumping on down to part 2 now. So part 2, okay, now it is a completely full flight, so our seat is the only missing one. But there's a catch, which is that some of the seats at the very front and the very back of the plane don't exist on this aircraft. So that means they're not exactly 127 rows and not exactly 8. They're not exactly 127 rows. Some of the front might be missing and some of the back might be missing. And we know that we weren't at the very front or the very back. So that means the seat with IDs on either side of us will still be in our list. So we need to find the ID of our seat. I recommend you go ahead and give this a try right now, and then we're going to jump into my code right about now. So jumping on down to part 2. So the way that I did this is first I created a list of the IDs that we haven't seen yet. So the way that I did this, instead of just going from, we're using a range, instead of just going from 0 to 127, like you might expect given the way the problem is structured, we can actually just go, we can use part 1 actually. So part 1 is going to give us our maximum value of the seat. So we can create a range of that plus 1 so that that maximum seat is still included. And those are all of the possible seats that could be in our list. So once we have that, we can go ahead and loop through all the seats and just remove from our unseen list every single seat that we come across, and then we can return the last element in unseen. So the logic behind this is pretty much, first of all, we're getting rid of all, remember, it doesn't have all the ones at the front, it doesn't have all the ones at the back. So we can get rid of all the ones at the back that aren't applicable by saying, okay, anything up until the maximum number, those are all applicable, obviously, but the things that are not up until the maximum number, the things that are past that, are obviously not going to be viable. So we don't even include those in our unseen list at all. So then what we can do is, if we have this, we're going to remove a bunch of things from the list, but we still might have a bunch of low values that we haven't done yet. So those low values are pretty much going to be the ones at the front that don't exist. So that means the highest value in the list is going to be our correct seed. So if we just go ahead and follow that, we can return the final seed, and that gives us our correct solution. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope it shed some light on the problem if you were struggling at all. Be sure to check out the playlist with all of the Advent of Code playlists, with all the Advent of Code episodes up until today right here. Get subscribed so you don't miss any future episodes, and you can keep up with my other things. Right now I'm doing a shell by example series where I teach how to use a Unix shell, and we're going to be doing other technologies and languages in the future, so get excited for that. And I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.